Member of for 15 years. Okay. So it is my honor to introduce another 15-year member of ASSP, Scott Gunderson, who is an occupational safety consultant with Oregon OSHA, and prior to that, he's worked in many different industries, vehicle manufacturing, semiconductor. He is a regular presenter at the Oregon GOSH Conference and a published legend in the industry. No. And a published author. So now, without any further ado, Mr. Gunderson.
Hi. I have this. Am I on mic?
Yep.
Can you all hear me? Okay. Well, excellent. And then how do I move this forward? We had some technical difficulties. The arrow key.
We're not technical difficulties.
No. We're good. We're good. Hey, so down. I want to thank chapter leadership for letting me come here. It's been a while. Those of you with long-term memories, the last time I spoke at a chapter meeting, there was carpet on the floor. It's about a dozen years ago. So for those of you who go back a little bit. And I want to thank all of you for being here. You're busy. You could be somewhere else, but you're here, and I appreciate it. I thank you for that. Try to make this worth your time. I'd like to get just a sense of sort of the collective memory in the room here. Participation is optional, and you get to define your experience with Portland, whether you lived here, worked here, visited here a lot, had relatives and heard what it was like here. Right, you get to define that. But I'm just curious, how many of you have memories going back to the Portland area? And it could be Willamette Valley, right? You get to decide the scope. Okay, there's nothing legal here. A dozen years, Portlandia. How many of you go back about a dozen years? Portlandia. Okay, right on. How about into the 90s? Nirvana playing Satyricon in Old Town. Okay, we got some folks from the 90s. How about the 80s? Tom Peterson, Bud Clark. Okay, we got some people with memories, all right. Reynolds High School, class of 85, Troutdale, Oregon. Okay. How many of you go back? 70s. Trailblazers. Star Wars playing in one theater, the Westgate in Beaverton, and you had to stand in line for an hour. Okay, 70s? A few of us. So it comes down, okay. I don't have my speaker notes. I'll do my best here. Those of us have been around a while, okay? How many of you remember going to school? Okay, and first day of school, September, it's starting to get cooler. Your mom makes you maybe wear a zip-up fleece. See that? Okay. How many of you sent kids to school this year, your kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews, and it was north of 90 Fahrenheit? Okay, a little disconnect there. How many of you going way back remember going to a mall, maybe Mall 205, Eastport Plaza, all right? How many of you have seen these shirts in places like Spencer's Gifts in the 70s and 80s? And am I the only one? Am I the only one who remembers these shirts? I remember them. You used to be able to buy these. What's the assumption behind these shirts?
It rains.
It rains all the time. It rains all the time. Okay? But talking about the kids going to school, my mom making me wear a zip-up hoodie because it's getting cool in September, and I'm sending my kids to the first week of school during a 90-degree heat wave. Okay? So I guess I would ask, how many of you would agree that it's getting warmer? Okay, a couple hands going up. The data supports your opinion if you agree that it's getting warmer. You can go to this webpage, University Reading. I recommend it. You can plug in your geography. And it will give you a variety of graphics. This is my personal favorite. It's the one that's relative to average. And you can see that warming trend. This is a UK website. It's still active. I was just on it about 2 weeks ago. Okay, so you can still go there. You can plug in any geography, and the global one is pretty terrifying. Okay, so the trend is warming. 2024 was the warmest year on record, nationally and globally. This is from January 2025, NASA and NOAA. 2025 data is still to be determined because the year is not over. So read the news in January, February, and see if that's been true. You could go to Vegas and you could put money down on temperature stabilizing or even cooling. I will not make that bet. You're welcome to do that, okay? I'm gonna be on the side that is gonna keep getting warmer. Locally, I don't know how many of you are around for some of these other things that we've been seeing. It was a very interesting and very disturbing couple of years. You know, we start with 2020, the Labor Day fires, and I'm talking mostly about heat here. Smoke, you can think of it along with other things like atmospheric rivers and ocean acidification. Think of them as the evil twins of heat, okay? They're there. I'll touch on them, but mostly I'm here about heat. But, you know, smoke was a big red flag in 2020. Most of you remember that. 2021, summer. How many of you remember 116 degrees Fahrenheit in Portland? When I was a baby safety professional in the 90s, if you had told me that I would see 116 degrees in Portland, Oregon, I would have told you you were insane. I was not paying attention. Well, here we are. It's happened. We're on the other side of it. It has happened. It could happen again. What's your plan? I ask you that. What's your plan? An interesting aside here, 21 and 22, I was introduced. Matt, thanks you for the introduction. Yes, I'm currently with Oregon OSHA. Most of you know I have a history with Oregon OSHA going back to 2013. However, I left for 2 years for the private sector. So I left OSHA, I went to the private sector. Summer of 21 and summer of 22, I was at a manufacturing location in Portland with 600 people. So it was really interesting not being on the OSHA side, but being back on the employer side. And I was back on the employer side during the heat dome, during the rollout of the emergency temporary rules, and during the rollout of the permanent rules in 22. So I was there building the programs for my employees in those 2 summers. And that's part of what this talk is about, okay? Because I'm back at OSHA and I work at OSHA and I have an OSHA business card and I'm a consultant, don't worry, I'm out of enforcement, I can't inspect you anymore. Used to be able to. People expect me to share this information. I could spend an hour or more just on the Oregon OSHA rule. That's a valuable conversation. Maybe we'll have that sometime. You can invite me back. You can invite one of my coworkers back, or maybe one of you can do it. SAFE has some good materials, so I'll give a presentation on that. I just have one slide, and what I'm going to do is point you to our webpage. We have the rule, we have support materials, we have fact sheets, and we have a template for you to fill in the blanks for your own program should it be necessary for you or the workers you support. Question, just a quiz here. Is it indoor or outdoor exposure or both in Oregon? Both. It's both. It's both. Some other states are outdoor only. Okay, so if you're working with your colleagues in some other state and they have a rule, it may be outdoor only. Oregon, it's indoor outdoor. When does it kick in? What's the threshold?
85.
Heat index 80. Heat index of 80. Okay, so there's that. But what I'm going to do right now is going to, as Steve Geigel, a former trainer at OSHA who's since retired, used to say, some of you may remember him, I'm going to take off my OSHA hat. And we're going to move into the world of best practice. This is a statement from our former president, not our chapter president, but our ASSP president. She put this sentence in an article she wrote a couple of years ago, and I've always liked it. I've always liked it. Yes, regulations are important. You need to comply with them. I have to say that. You know who I draw my paycheck from. It's the foundation, but there's no reason you can't go beyond that. And there are opportunities to go beyond that. ANSI ASSP has a standard for construction and demolition operations. I don't know how many of you are aware of this standard. It's about, well, 2024. I'd say it's about a year and a half old. Okay? You can purchase it on PDF through the ASSP webpage. There'll be a discount for your membership. I forget how much it costs. For those of you supporting workers in outdoor environments, I like it. What I also like about it, and this is a simple table, the devil is in the details, but you can see that column there on the right, there's the X. That's everything that's an Oregon OSHA rule. Look how many rows don't have an X. And what I'm trying to tell you by sharing this is that there are opportunities for additional best practices beyond what you will find in the regulatory requirements. So for your workers who are outdoors, you can take a look at this. It parallels really well with construction practices. So those of you who have workers in construction, you'll see the second row from bottom, competent person training. If you have a competent person for your scaffolding, your trenching, etc. on your site, you can roll them into this for heat. It parallels really nicely. So this is for outdoor work. But we're back indoors because I'm here talking about buildings, okay? NIOSH, maybe some of you have heard of them. Okay, NIOSH has had a recommended standard for quite some time. This document originally goes back to the 70s. It's been revised a couple of times in the 80s, and I think the most recent revision is around 2016. You can fact check me on that, but I think that's about right. There's been a lot of turbulence at the federal level, he said diplomatically. This is still on the CDC NIOSH webpage as of last week. This PDF has not been deleted. You can still go to this, all right? This table doesn't even do this justice because it is a 190-page document. How did I get a 190-page document onto a table that fits onto one slide? Well, I did some pretty serious simplification. I would encourage you to go to this. A two-part statement. Some of you in this room are industrial hygienists, yes? Yes? Okay. This is vacation reading for you in terms of the math, metabolic heat load, okay, all the hard stuff that us non-IHs call you for, okay? You'll find a lot of chapters on that. For those of us like myself who are not industrial hygienists, there are still very good strategies in here that you can take a look at that you do not have to be an IH to practice. Also applies to indoor workplaces. Again, the focus of my talk and what brings me here today. How many of you remember the energy crisis of the 70s? All right. What were we, or in my case, what was my dad trying to do? Zip up and sealing the windows, caulking the windows, insulation. We got to keep that heat inside the house. All right. That was the ethic of the time, and I remember my dad doing that. What I like about this document is they've flipped that. And there's a term that I like, and I'm going to use it a couple of times, so I'm introducing it here, reverse winterization. Reverse winterization. So the ethic in the past, my dad furiously caulking windows in the 70s, playing Peter Frampton on the stereo, okay? Now it's to keep the heat in, what we do now is we try to push the heat out, and we take advantage of opportunities for that. Good information there for your indoor workplaces on that, and we'll talk about what that means in a moment. But, you know, reverse winterization, ventilation, pushing warm air out, other strategies, limiting passive solar, keeping the sun out of your building, keeping the sun off your floors, because cooking your floors with sun introduces some heat that you then have to manage. But what's the gold standard? What do you really want? Come on, you know the answer to this. You want air conditioning. Don't you all want air conditioning? 116 degrees? Honey, it's warm. Let's turn on the air conditioning. Multnomah County Public Health did a study of the heat dome, unprecedented temperature, unprecedented number of heat deaths. All right. Now, this is public health. This is everybody. This is houses. This is homeless. In this room, we work with occupational health workplaces. They looked at the entire picture. But they noted that lack of air conditioning was a key driver in mortality, and they also commented on limitation of fans blowing warm air on people or just stirring warm air into environments. So you want to pay attention to that's not necessarily a solution in the absence of air conditioning. A fan isn't necessarily going to solve all your problems. You've got to use it properly. This is available online. I recommend this. It's just a fascinating study. Kudos to Multnomah County Public Health for their work on that. Anyone here in Multnomah County Public Health to take credit? No? All right. They did great work. This led me to some further reading on indoor heat control, passive controls in the absence of air conditioning, because you want air conditioning, but air conditioning is expensive, especially in large workplaces, factories, warehouses. This is not an easy fix, and I'll share that with you in a moment. I found this article in AIA, great article. Go to it and read it. Architecture's come a long way. I started out as an architecture major, all right? Yeah, back in the day of pencils on paper with parallel bars, okay? It was a different time, okay? Nirvana was still playing in Old Town. There's modeling now. There's modeling available that I didn't even know was going to be coming when I was a young architecture student back in the day. I'm not an architect. I changed majors. Let's be clear on that. But great article. What they did is they built a house in their simulation software. And this is a house, not a workplace, but I think there's some lessons for us. They built a house, and they applied the exterior temperature, that's the green line, during the heat dome. You can see that peak there at 116 Fahrenheit. Pardon me, the blue line. The blue line, my apologies. And then what they did something really wild. They had a blackout. They modeled no active controls. Air conditioning was off the table. Now that's what you want, right? But you sure don't want a power outage in a 116-degree day, do you? I'm not looking forward to that. They did it. And you can see the two scenarios here on the blue lines. Pardon me, the green line is the interior temperature. And you can see how on the left, the heat pretty much stayed stable. It got inside the house and it stayed inside the house. And you can see the numbers. Max temp 105, average 87, 170 hours above 85. That's not a house I want to live in, and that's not a workplace I want to support my workers. What I would prefer is a building on the left with control of passive solar, keeping the sun out, some smart use of insulation, and passive ventilation, opening everything up and letting that warm air get out overnight when it's cooler. You take advantage of that delta. When it's warmer outside, you want to bottle up your cool air inside, daytime practice. Flip it at night. When it's cooler outside, you want to push the warm air inside out and take advantage of that. They modeled that, and you can see the difference in the line. Max temperature, look at that. It was 105, it's down to 92. You like your average? 87 to 77. Hours above 85 went from 170 to 28. 26, sorry, that's testing my vision. Which building would you rather endure during the heat wave should you lose your air conditioning? The one on the right. Which building would you rather have your workers work in? Okay. The one on the right. So this got me thinking that there are some opportunities in the absence of air conditioning that you can look at. Let's go back to school. I mentioned kids going to school. I'm going to school first week of September. It's starting to cool down. My mom is forcing me to wear a zip-up hoodie. Okay? My kids, all right, well, my kids have aged out of this school, but my kids are starting school during a 90-degree heat wave, which didn't used to happen in Portland, Oregon in the last week of August, the first week of September, when it used to cool down. So here's, this is my kids' school. They've aged out of it. All right, lovely 1921 construction. Old building built under completely different climate conditions, okay? The peak temperatures were lower. The duration of the high temperatures were shorter. Lovely building, north-facing, single story. This doesn't look too bad to be in. Let me tell you, then we'll go to the south side of the school for a minute. One thing I want to be very clear. Oh, let's just go here now. Here's the 1960s edition cinder block. It's got that Correctional Institute vibe, all right? And that's to accommodate the population growth, baby boomers, people moving in, et cetera, et cetera. The old school wasn't big enough, and so they had to do these additions, and you can find these all over the place. My son's second grade class is lower window left. My son's third grade class is upper window left. My daughter was in a different area of the building, and they've both aged out. I want to be very clear here. I am not criticizing any school district, including the ones my kids went to school in, all right? They're doing important work under serious resource constraints, and they're in good company because there's a lot of buildings like this. People are playing catch up. So what I would ask you to do when you go back to your workplace is please don't say the speaker ragged on Portland Public Schools. If you're hearing that from me, I am not communicating clearly, and I apologize. I am not criticizing any school. Okay, I just want to be clear on that. So you can look at this south side of the building, cinder block construction. On the left is before the start of the school day in the first week of school in the last week of August. Forecasted temperatures above 90. I think we hit 95 that week. I'd have to check the records. So before school has started, what have the teachers or the custodians done while these windows are still in shade?
Open windows.
They've opened them. How many windows do they have to open? 4 each. How high are those windows? They're about waist high. I've been in those classrooms. How well do you think the heat that is accumulating at the top half of that classroom is ventilating out of open windows at waist high? What has one teacher or custodian done? You can barely see it. Upper left, upper left. There's 2 box fans. You can barely see them. I don't know if that teacher is pushing warm air out or trying to draw cool air in. I don't know the answer to that question. But this is what they're attempting to do. The second picture was taken about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, same day. School is out. Teachers' contract day is over. They've gone home. It's north of 95 degrees right now. What have the teachers done? Blinds down, windows closed. How much air do you think is going to ventilate out of those classrooms overnight? What do you think that classroom is going to be like the next morning at 6 when the custodian or the teacher opens it up? It's going to be a stifling hot box. Now, we're not here, I care about kids, but we're occupational safety professionals, so our focus is on the teachers. Do you want to teach in this room? Okay. So there's some opportunities here, and a lot of places of employment are dealing with this right now. I see them all the time. I saw them when I was in enforcement, and yes, I'm sorry, I used to write citations, and I see them now in consultation, and they're a little more receptive to my recommendation. It's just the way it works nowadays. I was at one warehouse in North Portland that was facing something quite similar. Boxed in, they had absolutely no roof vents, they zipped it up overnight, they had a high crime homeless population, there was no opportunity to have anything open. The overhead doors had to come down, and it was a hot box, and as I worked with them over the course of a couple of days during a heat wave, it kept getting warmer and warmer and warmer because they never got rid of that heat that was building up in their warehouse. Maybe you're seeing this in some of your workplaces or some of the workplaces that you're supporting. So, I'm moving pretty quickly, so I can slow down and keep you here till 3. No, you're busy. I worked here for 2 years, summer 21 and summer 22. I'm on a hang glider taking this from my phone. No, that's Google Earth. Google Earth. Let's just let the elephant out of the bedroom. I don't work there anymore, so I'm just going to say, let's just, you can find me on LinkedIn and do the math, but let's just not include it in the presentation because I don't work there anymore, and it's not really for me to speak about current things happening there. Manufacturing facility, 600 employees, built 1967, built for different climate conditions, okay? This really worked against us, that porous facility. We had all these open overhead doors for material handling, forklifts going in and out. I'm not just talking about those trucks you see, I'm talking about all that storage you see on upper right. A lot of materials moving in and out. Air conditioning as you expect in the office and lunch areas, but none in the production areas. We priced it out, and it was about $11 million. That does not include the cost to run it every summer. So that's not the operational costs. That's the purchase and install. That's the capital. To my knowledge, it has not yet been installed. We did not install it in 21 when I was there that summer, and we did not install it in 22 when I was there that summer. I've taken a few bicycle rides around the area, and anyway, I don't think it's there, but maybe it is. So there were some challenges here. And what we did as we were rolling out and making sure that we were building a program that would comply with the new Oregon OSHA regulations, remember temporary in 21, permanent in 22. I don't know what you were doing, but this was my world. So we were figuring out the magnitude of the problem that we were dealing with here. So we did a lot of temperature measurements in the workplace. Now, what did people want to do? It was interesting working with my coworkers on the factory floor. How would they tell me how hot it was? Maybe some people are doing this to you already. They'd wave their phone at me. And it's 6 in the morning. It's 62 degrees, very pleasant summer day. And they go, it's 100 degrees out. Well, no, it's not 100 degrees out, it's 62. But yeah, so what they're doing is they're going to how hot it's going to be. So I dealt with a lot of workers who would shortcut to their phones. Look how hot it is. Forecasted high at 4 o'clock this afternoon. That's the start of swing shift. You'll have been done 2 hours by the time it's that hot. This is not what they want to hear. It was still warm for them. But we did a lot of measuring, okay? Now, industrial hygienists in the room, cover your ears, okay? It was measurement by and for non-IHs. We did heat index, okay, heat index, because we were tracking with the Oregon OSHA rules, okay? So it's not the temperature on your phone. It's heat index. You got to do a little math if you don't have a measuring device that does it for you. We did not do WIBJIT, okay? Now, an IH would probably say, oh, you should have done WIBJIT. Fair enough. I will listen to that criticism. We did heat index because we were tracking with the Oregon OSHA regulations at the time. That was the decision we made, not WIBJIT. I'm going to do an aside here, 2 asides. There's been some ink spilled on the superiority of WIBJIT. You'll find one in professional safety about a year and a half ago. Look at your back issues, it's in there. Somebody wrote a great article on why we should be doing WIBJIT, not heat index. There was also one in the New York Times recently. So you can do an internet search and read the difference between why one is better than the other. And I would invite one of the IHs, if you want to do a presentation on that and there's room in the calendar, I would come here and listen to you talk about the difference in why one is better than the other, because I think it's important. So get on that, Matt. Okay. All right. Matt will speak on that. All right. So we did heat index, not WIBJIT. The other thing I want to share is I don't work there anymore. I no longer own the data. Okay. So I'm flying at a high elevation, qualitative, not quantitative. So if you want math, I'm sorry. Ask for your money back. You're not going to get a lot of numbers. I don't have the data anymore. Another invitation I want to throw out to the group. If you have a success story, you've done some measurements, you've made some changes, and you have some results to show improvement, I would come here and I would listen to your presentation. I think there's value to that to the members. Part 2 to that, some of you know that part of what I'm talking about here was in an article in Professional Safety that I wrote in, it was this summer, August of 25. Had some conversations with the editor. It was a qualitative article. You won't find a number in there. All right. You also won't find this location identified. We had a conversation. She wanted pre and post numbers. Can you give me a case study, Scott? I said, I can't. I don't work there anymore. I don't own the numbers. So if you've got a case study with numbers, I'd love to see you up here. And the editor of Professional Safety would love to see your manuscript. So there's a publication opportunity for you. Please take it and roll with it. But here we are. We did some heat mapping. We called it our heat map, is what we called it. And it was a monster spreadsheet, let me tell you. Monster spreadsheet. Many, many areas across many hours over the day. 6 a.m., 8 a.m., lunchtime, mid-afternoon, end of day shift, start of swing shift, going into first quarter swing shift. We were measuring multiple locations across day and getting an idea how the interior environment behaved during the hottest days. And we just geeked out on it. We just spent hours looking at this. It was just fascinating stuff. We had microclimates that surprised the heck out of us. There was no uniform exposure. It was not 85 degrees heat index at 2 in the afternoon on one day. It was the temperature variability was unbelievable. So looking at alpha, that was the highest variability. That was the place you wanted to be at 6 in the morning. You know why? All those open overhead doors, all the hot air flooded out overnight, and all the cool air came in. 6 a.m., you wanted to be at alpha. You did not want to be at alpha at 2 p.m. You know why? All those open overhead doors, all the hot air is pouring into location. They had a double hit. They were getting passive solar. The sun was actually coming in through those overhead doors and cooking the floor inside the building. So at 6 a.m., you wanted to be at alpha. At 2 p.m. and beyond, you did not want to be at alpha. Beta was similar without the sun. They had the open doors, got that nice cool air in the morning. You also wanted to be at beta at 6 in the morning. If you had your choice between alpha and beta, at 2 o'clock, you'd have picked beta because they are north facing, no sun coming into the building. You can barely see it, but do you see a little object pooching out of that extension on the upper left of that photo? That's a semi-truck. The loading dock had a big awning over it. All the trailers were in shade. That's where you wanted to be driving your forklift in and out. If you had to pick between the trucks, you'd pick between the trucks that you can't see under that awning, upper left at beta, over the trucks that you can see lower right on alpha. They're getting cooked in the sun, okay? So it was very interesting to us to see that behavior over the course of the day. Charlie was a wild card. Now, everything went to hell, pardon my language, on mezzanines and elevated work areas. Why is that? Heat rises, ceiling level. Nobody wanted to be up there. Floor level, interesting. As the heat progressed, it was relatively cooler than alpha. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you'd rather be at Charlie than alpha. You're away from the warm air, and you're not getting that sun on the floor. But at 6 in the morning, you didn't want to be at Charlie because over time, the warm air had nowhere to go. So Charlie got warmer and warmer and warmer and warmer over the hot days of the summer. So we just had these fascinating microclimates that helped us understand our area so that we could recommend some solutions. And our opportunities for improvement. At alpha, keep the sun out of the building. That was key. So look for opportunities with awnings, close the doors, shades, things of that nature, if we can install them. Didn't help really much at Bravo, but Alpha and Bravo had the same issue with the warm air. Keep the warm air out. Close the doors in the day, open them at night. By the way, smoke blows all this out of the water. Yeah, and we were blessed with with relatively decent air quality both of those summers. How would we achieve that in a 2020 situation? So you see how complicated this can get. Charlie, roof vents. Get some roof vents. Get that air out. Now that's active because we'd put them on fans and draw the air out, but roof vents, get that warm air out overnight. And then I want to throw Delta, which I haven't talked about. That's outdoors. And I'm not talking about the outdoor workers on their forklifts because we're talking about buildings. So the outdoor workers on their forklifts, that's a separate presentation. However, if you can look for opportunity, pavement just gets hot. And if it's close to your building, it's a source of heat. So can you look for opportunities to shade it, cover it, or remove it? I want to caution you about Delta. Okay, please don't run to your plant manager and say, well, how long is it going to take for those trees to grow? Yeah, exactly. Okay, but don't install awnings. Hey, let's put solar canopies. We were looking at that, by the way. Solar canopies over the outdoor storage. Shade it. You may not get the benefit because heat island, work with qualified people, there's a good chance you're getting overwhelmed by all the pavement around you. So you can, here's another, while you're on Google and you're looking for back issues and you're looking for AIA magazine, etc., just do Portland heat island map and you can see the hot spots around Portland. This is a regional issue. So please don't think that turning your lot into a little woodsy forest is going to bring you down 10 degrees. Don't promise that. Okay? But look for opportunities because pavement is just scorching, just scorching. You got a question, Brad?
Yeah. What was your alternative if you're removing the pavement?
We did not have that in that environment because of all the forklift traffic for outdoor storage. We had a long-term goal of covering it up. And I was working with my environmental engineer. I shouldn't say my because it didn't work for me. I was working for my peer, the environmental engineer. And as part of his sustainability effort, he was looking at additional solar arrays, not just the parking lot, but some of these outdoor storage. And I liked it because it would have the outdoor workers under shade. So we were looking at dual benefit, shading the workers, shading the pavement, and then he gets some bonus points because he's generating more of the electricity on site instead of buying it from PGE. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, so the option of removing it and putting it in hard-packed gravel
not this,
is not an option.
Not this location.
Yeah, because your forklifts and everything heavy would have sunk it all into the...
Correct, correct. So there's that. We're moving quickly. Oh, I'm on to the conclusion. All right. Please don't complain. We're ending sooner than I had thought. I wanted him to keep me here 2 hours. So, summary. I want to thank you again for your time. If you further interest, I've done some writing on it. Look me up on LinkedIn. You'll see the article I wrote. It's posted to my feed. Or contact me. I have cards. I'm happy to talk to you. I'm consultation. I will not inspect you. Don't worry about where I currently work. You got to follow the regulatory standards. It's a baseline expectation. What rules apply to your location and follow them? I would say that even if I did not work for OSHA. That's a baseline expectation. If you have different locations outside Oregon, they probably have different rules. Whether it's a federal state, which would have none currently, but there are other states, California, Washington, Colorado, et cetera, that do have some rules. So know your regulatory requirements in your area and follow them. Oregon does have a heat illness prevention rule for indoor and outdoor workers. If you have no rules, or in addition to them, there are always opportunities to do better. And I would never tell you not to do that. You may have some opportunities for your teams at your location. If you can do better than the Oregon OSHA rules, I would never advise you not to do that. So look for those opportunities. We do have the ANSI ASSP standard for outdoor work, primarily construction demolition, and there is the NIOSH recommended standard, 190 pages. It's deep reading, but you can find some nuggets in there that will help you help your indoor workers. Don't assume uniform levels of heat in the indoor workplace. Don't look at your thermometer, at your thermostat, and go, that's how warm it is in here right now. You're going to have, if you've got a large enough facility, you're going to have microclimates. We were amazed at what we found. And also don't be kind to your workers who are waving their phones in your face. Educate them that what they see on their phone is not necessarily what you're experiencing in that workplace, especially that indoor workplace. So map it, assess it, multiple areas, map your heat. Air conditioning is the gold standard. Air conditioning is expensive, especially if you have a large facility with 600 people, $11 million. I think that was 2020 pricing. What would it cost? Are things a little more expensive? I don't even know what it would cost now. Right, so what's it going to cost to air condition your factory? I don't know, but it's not going to be cheap. So when it's not feasible, when you can't afford it, et cetera, work with qualified people. and look for opportunities to dampen that. Passive solar, limit the passive solar, limit the entry of warm daytime air, and do what you can to push that warm air out overnight and take advantage of the cooler ambient air that you're experiencing at night. Real security challenges with that one, like the warehouse I worked with. Okay, they could not leave their overhead doors open. They'd arrive the next morning and the place would be cleaned out. Okay, so roof vents or other opportunities. But look for those opportunities. And again, work with qualified building professionals, whether it's an architect, whether it's your facilities engineer, whether it's people you trust who work with your building. I'm not an architect. I'm not a facilities engineer. Be careful just saying, do this, and promising something to your team. You may be making the wrong solution. So work with qualified people. Most of us in this room, myself included, are safety professionals. We're not building professionals. All right, maybe one of you is a building professional, and you're like, I know what to do. Good for you. All right, I need to work with qualified people. Management of change. Don't solve one problem and introduce another. We're going to close all our doors on the hottest days, and we're going to keep that warm parking lot air out of the facility, and we're going to run our forklifts for 8 hours. Okay? Are you introducing other hazards? So do a full analysis and make sure that you're not introducing one hazard by solving another. And I think that's the most obvious one that applies to a lot of us, forklift exhaust, unless you've got an electric fleet. But if you've got LPG forklifts running all over that place and you bottle it up, test, make sure you're doing the right thing. And then just look ahead. Look ahead, look ahead. Today's solution may not work tomorrow. Tomorrow's solution may not work next year. I can't promise anything, but the projections are temperatures will increase. Take that away. What do you need to do next year? What do you need to do 5 summers from now? Is your solution today going to work in 2030 if you're still going to be here doing this for a living? So take the long look. These are expensive fixes, and make sure that your fixes have some long-term applicability. I have not been watching the clock at all, so I apologize if I've gone long. I want to thank you for your time. I'll take questions in a moment. But again, you've been grand. I appreciate your time and attention. I have cards. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect with you. I'm locatable. All right. And
20 minutes if you want time.
Pardon me?
You have 20 minutes.
I will be done before 20 minutes is up. I'm locatable for informal, and then I got to do a pitch. I'm an Oregon OSHA consultant. I'd be happy to come to your location and give you some free advice, and I will not rat you out to enforcement, I promise. Brad, you had a question.
Yeah, actually, more of a comment to a suggestion. Back to your warehouse facility, and this can be any large facility, that if solar panels are an option that businesses look to, a couple of things to keep in mind is if they build solar panels and it is accommodating more power than the facility needs, they're selling it back to the power company and they're including that as revenue. Make sure, insurance, make sure that's included in your business interruption. There's a lot of businesses that don't account for that, and suddenly when they don't have those panels and they're losing that income, it wasn't accounted for in their insurance policy. So
yeah, net metering.
Yep.
Yeah, and I expect if you're buying something as expensive as a solar array, your finance people are probably involved. I don't think that's something that any of us are going to be able to pick up on Granger. Any other questions or comments? Yes.
Just a comment. I think the workers usually are coming up with things faster than a corporation entity at an official level. And you really find out at least the management tolerance of slowing down in these places where you can't get them cooled, they don't have air conditioning. People do need to slow down, and they do slow down, whether you like it or not.
They do.
To just manage the heat and their thinking abilities. So at least, again, just find out the management tolerance of different extremes. We've had COVID pandemic, and we've had this heat stuff, and they both have really challenged, I think, some of the potential solutions that might work because of what they're willing to lose profits or have to close things down or pay workers who need to go home because they're just sweating bullets in the workplace.
I would agree to you and add to that. I think no matter what happens, we're going to be seeing some very deep expenses. Whether you do nothing, that's going to be an expensive outcome for your location. And when you invest in a lot of capital, that's going to be an expensive outcome for your location. Or you split the difference and go administrative controls, cooling towels around workers' necks. That's going to have an expense associated with it too. So you're going to be eating. I think again, this is not Oregon OSHA opinion. This is my opinion. I think no matter what your locations do, you're going to be eating some expense, whether it's capital, building modifications, or whether it's eating it and living with slowdowns, or as we experienced, increased absenteeism. Which one would you rather have for your business?
Question.
Yes.
So the roll-up doors, and I'm curious if you have experience or opinions on having workers be in charge of when to move them up and down, or did you have anything that was automated on timers? How did that all work with, or were you having to police it? Is that kind of how it ends up being to make sure things are closed and open?
If you're willing to be a police officer, you can do that. But if you're in an environment with a lot of traffic, people going in and out on vehicles, I've been to a lot of refrigerated warehouses. They're paying a lot of money to keep these rooms cool for the product they're storing in there, including sometimes ice cream. So these roll-up doors are on sensors. They do not give the workers the opportunity to leave them open because they just don't want to have to pay to refrigerate the non-refrigerated part of their buildings. So there are roll-up doors with sensors that as your vehicle approaches it, it will roll up, you drive through, it rolls back down. So I find that to be the solution I like best if I had access to the funds or approval.
And I imagine they would have an option to keep it open if you wanted to keep it open for a period of time to let the air out.
Yes.
Like there would be some switch or something
Yeah.
you could do. Do you have any experience with, I guess what was your experience training folks in maybe where there weren't sensors to maybe follow what you guys needed as far as like lines and office spaces or anything like that?
It was very challenging.
Simple.
Very challenging.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, I would. It's probably on par of keeping earbuds out of people in hearing conservation areas.
Sounds pleasant.
It's about the same amount of effort. Yeah.
My other question, which is maybe obvious, but what's the WIB-JIB thing?
WIB-JIT, wet bulb globe temperature, and it's a different type of measurement. And I'm not an IH, and I'm not going to try to explain it.
It looks kind of fun though. Looks like it'd be a fun experiment. Don't you think? No?
WIB-JIT?
Yeah, with the bulbs and things like that, and temperature and water. Looks like a science experiment.
I'll let the industrial hygienist do that. And Matt, thank you for agreeing to speak on that, I think in April, right? No.
If you love fun equations and math, then yeah, wet bulb stuff is for you. So
Heat index, a lot easier, and you'll know where you are relative to the Oregon OSHA rules. Yes, you had a question?
Did you look at or consider swamp coolers?
We had them.
Yeah.
The air shed in there was so large, they were minimally effective. Maybe if you were right in front of it, they were not a good solution. And we racked and stacked a couple. When I went there, we had them for years. I said, what do you do about the summer temperatures? Not knowing that I was going to see that heat dome.
Were they rooftop mounted swamp coolers or
Floor mounted, portable.
Okay.
In storage during the winter, roll them out during the summer. I'm not a fan of them. I've not seen them work really well.
Did you look at rooftop though?
We did not. We looked at what they call, pardon my language, the big ass fans, but that's some effectiveness there. It does move some of the air, but at some point in time, you're just stirring warm air inside an enclosed environment. You've got to get the warm air out overnight and let the cool air in. So these solutions, you've got to look at them, at how they all work together. Unless you're going to get air conditioning, I'm not a fan of one solution. You've got to work them together. I wouldn't buy a swamp cooler and leave overhead doors open and have sun hitting your floor. All right, I would not. So you want these to work together. Did that answer your question?
Well, yeah, no, mostly the rooftop. That's why I thought it was going in Phoenix in the 50s, 60s, the rooftop, and they're pretty effective until modern air conditioning.
Yeah.
They're a lot cheaper. But the indoor portable, you're just recirculating
Yeah.
the air, so they don't work. Rooftops are pretty good.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Question. Something I'm curious on. Is there any talks with the Washington, Oregon, and California kind of aligning some of the variances in the rules?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I don't think so. I'm not hearing anything.
Okay.
If those conversations are happening, they're happening amongst people who are more important than me.
Got it. You might hear something. We have facilities on the West Coast, so with the smoke and the heat, there are some variances.
So so basically, I welcome the opportunity to be regulated in 3 different states by No, I'm not seeing alignment of the rules. We have ours, Washington has theirs, and California has theirs. Other questions, comments? Going once, going twice? Again, you've been grand. I thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, Scott, and we get started.
Yeah, nobody's getting out of here without scanning